Hello and welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy, or Miami Boat Ramp, whatever my channel's called. It's been such a long time I forgot. I was going to send this car off to a workshop and just have them finish it, but you may remember in the last video from last year now, I noticed that the head bolts would occasionally have a bit of coolant coming out of them, and my solution was to ignore it. But I can't really ignore it anymore because now it just goes full Richard Trevithick, and there's now just a steady stream of coolant coming out of them. There's even coolant leaking out from between the cylinder head and the engine block. So it's head gasket failure. Rather than send a workshop a blank check, I'm going to take the head off and investigate. But first I have to drain the coolant, of course. Whoops. So there's coolant coming out there. There's coolant coming out of all of these bolts. And there's some head bolts inside the rocker cover. It's leaking there, so anyway the coolant is mixing with the oil. But I think the big one is down here. So right here the coolant is just coming directly out where the head gasket is. The head is coming off. Okay, diagnosis time, and I think it's good news. For a head gasket failure, I think this is good news. All the head bolts are loose. For example, these I've just been able to spin all these, and they just, very compliant, they just come right out. So this one's actually a bit stiff, but no, I can actually turn it. So when I did this almost 2 years ago, it was the first head gasket job I'd ever done. So no surprise that I made some mistakes there. So I've had a look at the gasket as well. As far as I can tell, there's just lots of course, signs of water getting out of the water jacket and leaking out of the side. It's difficult to show on the GoPro, but I don't see any signs of it getting into the cylinders, that also makes sense because I never saw any steamy white clouds coming out of the exhaust, or what's left of the exhaust. It was just the steam coming out of the engine block and the cylinder head that got my attention. And when I did that cylinder head job, I took it to an engine builder, and he looked at the cylinder head and he said it's perfectly flat, there's no real need to machine it unless you've definitely got a problem. And I don't think there is a problem, so I'm just going to clean up all the surfaces and have another good look at it. If it looks okay, if there's nothing obvious, I'm just going to take a chance, bung a new gasket on and try it. I know people will be saying, oh, you should use this, or you should definitely get it machined anyway, but I just need to get it through a test and get it registered finally. I'm planning next year maybe we'll do a full rebuild of the engine or get an engine builder to do that. Right now I just want a quick job. Maybe it lasts 6 weeks, maybe 6 months, doesn't matter. It might be enough to get it through a test. So I'm just gonna take these bad boys out, give everything a good clean, especially down where the head bolts go, and then put a liberal amount of thread lock on them as well and make sure they're really stuck in this time. Okay, that's the studs. I think I was calling them bolts earlier, but technically they're studs, but who cares. So these are now properly tightened down using the 2-bolt method and a little bit of Loctite, which whoever gets to rebuild this engine at some point is going to thank me for. But anyway, so the studs should not have water leaking around them now. The cylinder head's kind of meh. It's I can already see, you know, there's a lot of carbon build-up, there's a lot of oil. I think, yeah, I'm just going to clean this up as best I can, shove it all together and try not to enter a full engine rebuild. Okay, this cleaned up pretty well. I got all the, there was a lot of carbon and oily deposits on these valves. That might have been from when I first started the engine up and it was a bit smoky after so many years doing nothing. But it might also just be that the piston rings are so did I mention something about doing a complete rebuild on this engine? And here's the new head gasket. Interestingly enough, it actually says it's for the Allegro, it's not like a mini one. And looking at the packaging, it's actually new, not new old stock. Kind of heartwarming to think that somewhere someone is still producing spares that are specifically for the Allegro. Right, everything back in one piece. Next thing to do is bung some coolant in it, run the engine so it gets nice and warm, let it cool down, and then retorque all the bolts, nuts, whatever they are, and do the gap setting. Then it should be good for, let's say, at least until August. Could probably do with having a tidy up first though. That would be a good idea. Yeah, a little tidy up. So that's the introduction done. Not bad for an introduction to a head gasket. So the rest of the video is just going to be about getting the car back on the road. I've decided enough of this trip. I'm just going to have one video, one big push. Tested and registered first. Needs an exhaust. Figure that out himself. It needs a bit of welding. Okay, I can just about weld. We need to fix the wicked steering wheel. That's it, just to be fixed. But the slower you go with restoring cars, I'm finding is that you just end up going backwards. So at some point you just need to say, right, that's it. I'm going to just get this done. So that's the plan. Exhaust, welding, steering rack. Where the hell am I though? Where's the car gone? Where's the garage? Now to make the exhaust I've got this box of tricks. So I've got some exhaust paint there to try and stop it corroding. Bunch of hangers, brackets, whatever. Silencer. So this is the center box. I haven't got a back box because I have it on good authority, you don't really need one. And then this lot is a motorcycle custom exhaust kit from this place, Motorcycles United in the Netherlands. So you have a bunch of straights of various lengths, all with sleeves, various bendy bits. They all fit together very nicely. It even fits on the silencer just like that. So you can get everything just nice. Plenty of wiggle room. Should be quite easy to just weld around there. And it's also a 38mm bore, which is pretty much what's on that thing at the moment. Your Allegro may vary, because this is special and it seems to have a lot of things that are a little bit different to UK Allegros. But anyway, so I think with the grinder and a saw and the welder, should be able to make a convincing exhaust with this lot. Just noticed as well, pure coincidence, the silencer is Bosal, and they're from the Netherlands as well. So there's a real Netherlands themed exhaust going to be built. Something else, you know how people say when you listen to a seashell you can hear the sea? I wonder what happens, I wonder what you can hear when you put your ear to a silencer.
Stachu? Słuchaj, jest Stachu w domu? K***ać, po co on tam pojechał do centrali, mój las wyciął, po mojem chodził, moje pieniądze zabrał. Kto mu dał takie pozwolenie? Ty powiedz temu synowi, gdzie on pojechał, bo go szlak jasny trafi, krew nagła zaleje. Wygolił las, jako ch***e miał tam z tą naszą bułą jechać do lasu i powycinać nasz las. K***a ci dam, kto to mówi, aż was szlak jasny trafi, krew nagła zaleje. K***a wasza za***ać była. Ja ci k***a dam, co ty chcesz. Ja ci dam, k***a, gdzie pieniądze są za las.
Clearly a very angry person. Right, well this is a revelation. So I've got axle stands, but they're not taking any load. They're just there in the highly unlikely event that something goes wrong. Just quick jack, so you can just throw your axle stands away, but I like to have an insurance policy. Now, first thing I notice is how wet things are. I know all British Leyland cars leak, but we seem to have, I guess, 3 fluids leaking here. We've got engine oil, we've got gear oil leaking out of the steering rack, and where was it now? Can't really see it here, but the puddle is there. Basically we have a continuous stream of brake fluid leaking out. So it looks like we've got a 4th job, which is to have a look at the brake lines. But anyway, let's stay focused. Dealing with this at the moment. So I think the first thing to do is unscrew this, have a look at everything, and I think with exhausts, according to YouTube, you start at the front and work your way back, nice and methodically. Wow, this is just amazing. I'll be able to tidy all these lines up as well, have a look for if there's anything that needs rust proofing or a little bit of extra welding. It's fantastic. Worth every penny. Also just noticed that this mounting plate isn't exactly connected where it should be. I think that was just because last time I was working on this I was just reaching in underneath, but now I can have a look at these things properly and get to them. Absolutely brilliant. Just starting to look at other things and wondering if there's something to fix, but stay focused. Ah, there we go. Reuse that. What now? Might need just to get the grinder and get rid of that weld. Okay. Let's have a look at this thing then. So this is the top bit of the exhaust. This connects onto the manifold. As you can see, it's had a pretty hard life. It's been cut and then spot welded back together. It's been bent, it's got a massive kink in it. It's pretty worn down. I'd like to replace the whole thing, but what concerns me is the flange here. I don't have the proper tools to make that, but I could brute force it potentially. So I'm going to have a think and a play off camera, and then I'll share whatever I came up with if I'm not too ashamed of it. First win of the day. So I just took an adjustable spanner and spent a good half hour just gently bending it over bit by bit until I got the right angle. Then I used a steel plate and a hammer to get it flat, and I think that's about as good as it needs to be. Yeah, it's pretty rough inside and exhaust builders will hate me, but I don't think that's anything a good bit of exhaust putty couldn't solve. And this is the new exhaust clamp, so it'll fit in there really nice and snugly. I think that should be good enough. Right, this new exhaust clamp doesn't fit the manifold. I guess this is another example where Minis and Allegros maybe are a little bit different, or it could be a Swedish UK thing. So I've pressed the original clamp back into service. Don't know if you can just see it there, and just put the first bit of pipe roughly in position, and then what you can do, so you see the pipe sticking out there, you can take kind of various different bits and just try them, see what happens. See how far you get. Slide that in there. Okay, so we're a bit closer. Now I can take maybe this angle, it's not quite 90 degrees, and then slide it in here. Oh, it's not far off actually. So I'm just going to go off camera and figure this out a bit more, and I'll catch you later. Okay, I've got this far now, so it goes nicely up into, ooh, where are we? Goes up into the manifold, fits into this bracket perfectly, plenty of wiggle room. So far so good. Now we need to go all the way back there. Okay, it's getting quite late and it's about -3 now. Probably get down to about -10 tonight, so it's time to finish, but something like this. So we've got this long section here, no back box. Obviously this has to be a bit shorter, but that's right at the end. And then I've got some butt welding to do. So these aren't like the actual corners that came with the kit. I've just made those up myself. Gaffered them for now, but I'll weld them tomorrow. And then we go into the centre box. I'm not sure if this big Among Us is going to stay or if I'll put the original bracket back on. And then it goes all the way down to the front and up into the manifold. So I think, touch wood, that's the hard bit done, and I think it looks okay. Nice pea shooter effect. Yeah, quite happy with that. Anyway, time to tidy up and go and curl up with an IPA. Right, sit rep. I've got the first part of the exhaust tack welded on, but it's hard. It's really complicated. Everything affects everything else. Okay, I don't even know how to begin explaining this, but it exists and it fits. I think I'm just gonna plow through this. I'll film it, but I can't do any commentary if I can't explain what I'm doing, but there you go. Quick update, I couldn't sleep last night for thinking about the terrible job I did of flanging it, and then I realised you can buy flanged ends, so these are exhaust repair kits. So I just sliced the end off and welded that on. Job's a good one, I think. And we are very nearly there. Just got to weld it all up properly now. It's tack welded and or properly welded in places, just need to put it into one solid piece of metal now. But as you can see, compared to the original, it's quite a lot straighter, missing the back box. So I'm going to say this is what a performance Allegro exhaust will look like. The question I want to know is, what will it sound like? Okay, so got the welder plugged into a 50-meter long extension cable, which is perfectly fine. Let's go. Well, this has to be some of the best welding I've ever done.
Alles Scheiß!
Just letting it cool now. Don't need that. And then give it a paint. Painting helps seal the welds up, you know. Not quite. I don't know how I've managed this, but it's kind of angled down, so when I lift this up to the correct angle, the rest of the pipe then starts to knock against things like the gearbox remote. You can just about see where the bend is, and then the back box is pressed up against the floor pan, and also this pipe is now just too close to the fuel tank. So what I'm gonna have to do is chop it off, correct that angle, and also make sure it's just between the fuel tank and the displacer. No one said it would be easy, did they? Respect to all exhaust builders, this is really complicated and quite frustrating. Yeah. Anyway, so time to get the grinder out. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is weld in an extra bit of pipe there without the duct tape to get us over this, the cross tube, and then put the pipe on there without it dipping down at a weird angle. And you probably can't see, so we'll stick the pipe there, and then it's got plenty of clearance around the fuel tank all the way around, so, and it doesn't go anywhere near the displacer. All in one piece again. Let's just hope it's the right shape this time. So there we go, there's our pea shooter and our Peugeot 207 rear exhaust mount, just to finish things off. Right, I wonder what it sounds like. The answer is she sounds pretty good. Oh my god, that nearly broke me, that did. Oh. Going back to our list of things to do, I would say that is exhaust done. Alright, I'm back. That was a bit of a slog. Yeah, I didn't film a lot of the welding work. It's difficult enough to do the welding, let alone film it. There's a bit here still to do, but if it fails on that, I'll fix it. I'll fix it anyway, just not right now. What concerns me more, and this is probably just paranoia, is one of the things I had to weld was this little bracket. It just snapped off, and so I welded it back on, and in the process of doing that I mullered the flange of the hard line there. I'm not sure if I mullered it to the point where it's going to leak, and if I tried to reflange it there's a good chance of just knackering it completely. So I thought I'd give it a chance. Just going to fill it with brake fluid, try and bleed it and see if it leaks. If it doesn't leak, then I'm going to say that's okay. So it's a bit of manufactured peril, isn't it? If this brake line starts to leak, then we'll have to just break up the car for spares. It's the end of the project. I'm joking, don't worry. It's just a joke. I finally got around to watching Peter Jackson's Beatles documentary, and it's broken my internal commentary, so every time I do something it's them talking inside my head, you know, like, "Hey Paul, did you bleed the brakes on the Allegro?" "No, I thought you were going to do it." "I thought you were going to do it." "Well, maybe Ringo's going to do it." "Maybe we'll ask Ringo." "Hey Ringo, are you going to bleed the brakes on the Allegro?" "I thought you were going to do it." "He says you were going to do it." You know, it's just like that all the time. I think therapists are quite expensive, aren't they? Got me thinking though, which do I prefer, the original Get Back album or the lie back cover of Get Back? and it's got to be the Lieback version. I mean, they took the Beatles breakup album and turned it into a breakup album about Yugoslavia. I mean, that's a concept and a half, isn't it? Right, more brake fluid. Got some government brake fluid. Ooh, government brake fluid has this kind of intricate seal on it. It's in English as well. Lift, pull. Lift, pull. But this is Polish brake fluid for Polish people. It's our brake fluid. Why should it be in English? Brim it, because most of that will be gone soon when we bleed it, or it just leaks out. Don't leak. Just don't leak. I think it's just a little bit, yeah, a little bit too high, that, isn't it? Ah, okay. That'll probably do for now. Oh dear. So yeah, it's leaking. Gonna have to take that off and reflange it somehow. Hopefully without taking the whole pipe out. Let's see what I can do. Whilst that drains, the plan is, I don't want to take the whole line out because it goes all the way underneath the car and it'll be dramatic to get it out and then put it back in. So I can't use the the proper flanging kit, but I can use this little, I call it an emergency kit. I don't know if it is an emergency kit or not, but you just got a clamp here and stick the line in there, straighten it out, and then you just flange it with that bad boy. The only risk here, oh, not the only risk, the big risk is that I have to cut the pipe and make a new ending for it, and that means I'm going to lose about 1.5 centimeters of length. So then the next bit of manufactured peril is if it's then too short and it doesn't, if then it's not long enough to reach the connector, then going to scrap the car. No, I'm going to have to either get a line, a brake line extension thing, like a compression fitting for brake lines, or just replace the whole line. But as the saying goes, we'll cross those legs when we get to them. First thing I'm going to try is that. A few days later, I've slept on it and I got some brake line compression fittings, got a new length of brake line there, and what I'm going to do is make it with the proper Watcher 5000 and then cut the bad bit off the end of the brake line down there and just attach it with a compression fitting. I've had enough of trying to stretch things and maul in under this car, so I can't eliminate mauling underneath the car, but I can try and reduce it a bit. Okay, much more convincing. Right, I've bent it roughly to shape and I found a nice new nut for it, and that's where it's got to go on the end of the flexi. So I think if I cut this one here, that should give me plenty of space, plenty of wiggle room, and it should line up nicely. And I shouldn't have to do any mauling with it, although I inevitably will. Oh, thank God for that. Let's hope it's still the right length. Yeah, easily. I think you're not meant to tighten these up very tight, whatever very is, but it's difficult to tell, when you're in this position, how much torque you're actually putting on the spanner. I guess I'll get it fairly tight and then we'll just see. If it starts to leak again, I'll just try and tighten things up. I think we should just wipe all this brake fluid up as well. Like anything to do with brakes, this is just like much more effort than it really needed to be. But there's the compression fitting and there's the new ending. So just have to try it again and let's see if it leaks or not. Well, it's dry as a bone back here, but of course we sprung another leak right there. So it's coming from the differential switch. One of those is gone. So just find out which one it is and same again. The good news is it's that one on the bottom left there, which is just goes directly to the to the brake master. It doesn't go under the car, so it should be pretty straightforward to get that out and reflange it. Several more days later. Okay, I think that's it. Still one or two little bubbles, but can't be bothered anymore. So, this has been quite a fight, but the only puddles are the expected puddles of engine oil, which is par for the course with an A series. But this line was just being a bit crazy. I reflanged it, I tightened it up again. I know you're not meant to tighten brake lines too much, whatever too much means, but it's a 50-year-old car, 50-year-old fittings. A lot of this was pretty badly corroded when I got hold of it, so I think some things you just have to rag them up as tight as you can until they stop leaking. But yeah, it's all the brakes are bled, and I've got no leaks right now. So I think it's time just to make sure that the everything's torqued up correctly, and put the wheels back on and spin it up on the driveway again. You can see if anything else has unfixed itself. Back on dry land again. Probably have to adjust the hydrogas, but that's why I've got a pump. Nice. Yeah, this side is about within spec, 36.5 centimeters from the center of the hub to the top of the wheel arch, and this one is a little bit down. It's like 1.5 centimeters lower than the other side, so it needs a bit of a pump there, but I'm not going to do that right now because the next job on my list is the valve clearance settings. This is pretty boring and monotonous. Anyone with a Mini knows what I'm talking about. Just got to turn the engine to the right position, stick some feeler gauges into these things, and with the adjustment on the back, just make sure there's enough clearance so that you get compression and the valves don't melt. It's pretty routine and boring, so I'm not going to film it. Right, that's all the gaps set to the 0.305 millimeters, more or less. Yeah, it all looks pretty good, but looks can be deceptive. So these are the spark plugs after running it for about 10 minutes last time. Don't know if they're supposed to be that black and covered in oil. Yeah, it looks great, but deep down this is quite a sick engine, and it would benefit from a more comprehensive rebuild, but we'll get around to that. Would you believe the sound of this? She is all about the bass and there is no treble at all. It's like there's a big block V8 in there, I think. But up front, we're okay. No leaks that I can tell of. Nice clattery tappet noise. The smell of curing exhaust paint and exhaust putty. What an outrageous noise though. It's got a warble. How does it have a warble? I'm loving that. Kicked in as well. Right, just need to get that hydrogas balanced up a bit better. I'll do that tomorrow though. Brakes are good. For the first time it feels like a car I wouldn't mind driving around town. Don't think I'd take it on the motorway and bomb over to Berlin just yet. But around town I think it'd be fine. Okay, quick update. Agnetha's going for a test on Friday morning. It's now Wednesday evening. I've sorted out the hydrogas, so it's now level. Everything seems to be behaving itself, there's no leaks. I've tidied up any loose wires, given it another clean so it doesn't smell like the bilge of a canal boat. Tidied up the carpets, just made it so that the inspector gets a good first impression, because that's probably more important than most people think it is. I've also done a couple of details that are easy to overlook, so I've just checked all the lights work. She's got the legally required fire extinguisher, red warning triangle. If any of those things are missing, it's an instant fail. It's a pretty dumb thing to fail on. And I think she's ready. So there's a tow truck coming at 9 o'clock on Friday. Tow truck because it's not registered. I could get temporary registration plates and drive it there myself, but this is my first rodeo, this car, and yeah, I kind of trust my own judgment, but not to the point where I'm just going to bomb off down the street in 1,000 kilograms of my judgment. So tow truck's coming. It actually costs about the same as doing it with temporary registration plates, but it's not going to break down. It's on a recovery truck if it does. It's just the sensible option for me right now. I'm already catastrophizing about failing the test. I know it doesn't matter, maybe it'll be fine, maybe it won't. just going to have to get through it. So because Agnetha is going to be classed as a historic vehicle, that means that she has to have an inspection before she gets registered. I think that's slightly different to in the UK, where most of you guys are from and gals. But different countries have different laws. Fine, it has to have an inspection. But after that, it does not require an annual inspection. Now, there are some historic vehicles that are used for things like weddings and novelty car rentals. And because they're historic vehicles, but for commercial use, they do have to have a 1-year renewable inspection. But because this one's just going to be private usage without any commercial stuff, it just has a one-time inspection and then it's good for its life. But I still think it's a good idea, just if you're not a professional mechanic yourself, just to take it for a test once a year anyway. At least in Poland it doesn't cost a lot of money, and all they're going to tell you is either everything's fine or it's not, and then give you a list of things to fix. It's not a big deal. The other thing is that there's lots of test centres around here, small independent places, but because this is a historic vehicle, most of those places won't support the test. So it's got to go to the district test centre. This is a much bigger place, and they tend to do all the things like the buses and HGVs and heavy plant. But it's fine, it's not very far away. There's no reservation system, you just turn up and queue. So, like I say, it's Wednesday night now. Seems to be like everything's fine. Friday morning, going on a recovery truck, get it tested, come back and see where we are. And after recording all that, I just noticed the brake lights weren't working in the GoPro footage, but now they are. Oh, let's check if both are okay. I'll just put you down here. So like I said, it would be a shame to fail on something stupid like brake light switch not working. Well, there's nothing more I can do on this today, so I'm just going to go to Lidl and buy some bread. It didn't fail, it didn't pass, didn't even get as far as taking the test. Got to the test centre, I hadn't done some of the paperwork that was needed. Yeah, okay, this is when you're an English guy in Poland doing stuff that's most people just never do. Most people don't get classic cars that have been dragged from a foreign country and they've spent 2.5 years in a garage trying to do them up. So no surprises that I wasn't fully prepared. But they said they were really helpful, really nice people, and they just said, look, we're open till 6 p.m. You've got time to go up and sort this paperwork out, and then you can come back and, you know, maybe you can even drive it home. And so we left it there and went to try and sort out the paperwork. Went to 3 offices and yeah, when the car was imported to Poland, you have to pay import duty whenever you bring a car into Poland. It doesn't matter if it's EU or USA or China, you always have to pay import duty. And it had been paid, and I had proof of that, but there'd been a tiny clerical error, just a literal 1-letter spelling mistake, and so the whole thing is just like that has to be fixed first. So it's nothing suspicious, it's just a bit of a cock-up that happened years ago, and now it's been discovered. People are working on it, it's going to get fixed, but I don't know how long. Hopefully a couple of weeks, optimistically. It's not the kind of thing you can just cross out with a pen. It's paperwork, it's got to be kind of redone. But never mind, because the other thing that happened was Thursday night I checked the lights again and the reverse light switch had bust. So you'd put it into reverse and the reverse lights would just stay on. Then you could put it into first gear, jiggle the stick, be as violent as you want, they would just stay on. So I need to take the reverse switch out. On Thursday night I just decided she's just nervous, she doesn't want to go. So I didn't touch it, I just left it, and now I see she was trying to tell me something was wrong, you know, reverse. Doesn't matter, I'll get a new reverse switch, install that. Maybe there's some other things I could just get a bit nicer. So anyway, I think that's the end of this video. It's already very long. There's no kind of like whiz bang, hey I'm driving it down the street conclusion, because this isn't Hollywood or the BBC, this is real life. And that's how it is. You fuck around and find out, don't you? And now I've found out. But I think the guy, the recovery truck driver, was excellent. Really nice guy. I left him a very nice review. Definitely use him again. But I think next time I'm confident enough I'll just get the temporary registration plates, stick them on and drive it round and see how far we get. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing and liking. The next one will maybe just be playing around with reverse light switches and things like that, and then we'll do a test drive and we'll take it for a test and see how it goes. Okay, I'm gonna go and get my bread now. Bye.